Naumann was born the day before Pearl Harbor was attacked. Reports that say something hasn't happened are always interesting to me, because as we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. The day after Bruce Nauman was born, Pearl Harbor was attacked. Some years ago, I was invited by an old friend from college, asked to give a talk about my work at Hull School of Art. He was relatively new to teaching, and I was a reluctant speaker. He was nervous for me, and the feeling was contagious. The lecture theatre had a prodigious rake and a formal lectern. This was to be my first experience of stage fright. I would try to begin a sentence, personal pronoun, followed by verb, followed by a what? Each word became disconnected for myself, and any ordering logic, it seemed to land on the floor and stare back at me, like those words that go crazy if you think about them too much. It seemed to be too densely packed to own to anything but itself. I remember the students were agog. A panic attack is a meeting with the absolute. The here and now are catastrophically present, suffocating any attempts at reflection with existential dread. I recognize this aphasia as a quintessential Naumanesque experience. Do something or I'll die. I can't do anything. Speak and die. Speak and live. Fail and die. Fail and live. Run from fear. Fun from rear. There is a German term, earworm, which defines those insidious tunes, riffs, jingles, catchphrases that work their way into one's consciousness. They come unbeckoned. Please pay attention. Please make me think me. Repeat and repeat. No, 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 no! I'm not into the detailed stuff. I'm more concept. This is Donald Rumsfeld again. Humpty Dumpty pleading to be liberated from the constraints of his story, from responsibility. What if there is no moral to the tale? Well, I use the word, Humpty Dumpty said, in a rather scornful tone. It means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice Little, our embedded correspondent, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be master? That is all. My word is my bond. I give you my word. In the beginning was the pun. Words become intransigent or under pressure of great conflicts, untrustworthy, evasive, treacherous, like photographs. Time and space cannot be faked. Weight, gravity, stillness, movement, the laws of motion, an equal and opposite force. Newton! Who gave us gravity but believed in alchemy. The true artist helps the world by revealing mystic truths. Einstein is asleep. He's dreaming now, said Gilbert. And what do you think he's dreaming about? Alice said, well, nobody can guess that. Why, about you, Gilbert exclaimed, clapping his hands triumphantly. And if he left off dreaming about you, where do you suppose you'd be? Where I am now, of course, said Alice. Not you, Gilbert retorted contemptuously. You'd be nowhere. Why, you're only a sort of thing in his dream. If he was to wake, added George, you would go out, bang, like a gander. I remember the cover to Roget's Thesaurus. On the cover was a photograph of a paper chain, coloured loops of paper connected in a chain, and each link was written a word, and the adjoined word chain proceeded by synonym and nuance to gradually circle around the absent object of their definition. Looping the loop. In religious ceremonies, the repetitions, no matter what religion, are ruled by the loops around the sun, even before we knew we were aboard the moving body. Easter and Passover are alike in their repetition of sacrifice. Ramadan ends on a new moon. Our links with the past and our reassurance of our future require such ceremonies. The same thing repeated forever is a litany. Lit-any. Words that mean something sacred. But we know that it is only through a leap of faith, because the linguistic sign is arbitrary. Rhetoric is all. The aircraft towing an advertisement across the sky, dollar signs in the middle of the desert, dirty money. The beginnings of Howard Hughes' obsessive-compulsive disorder, obsession with cleanliness, withdrawal from the world, retreat, ever washing, cleaning, when we bathe together, it is holy, baptism, dirty money, shame, guilt. Jesus, we're talking religion here. When we speak together, it becomes a chant, plain song, dollar signs in the middle of the desert, ka-ching. You can't take it with you. You will hang for this. Not that the experience is circular, cyclical, but the quality, the circle in Dante's Divine Comedy, the inverted theories of capitalism expanded by Milo Mindbender, the Dick Cheney character in Catch-22. The white soldier in Catch-22, bandaged from head to foot with an intravenous drip feeding into his arm and another tube draining him. When the liquid had drained through him, the two were swapped. Catch-22 itself. Bruce Nauman. From the earliest tapes that I did, coming from a certain sense from some of Andy Warhol's films, they just go on and on. And you can watch them or you can not watch them. Maybe one's showing already and you come in and watch for a while and you can leave and come back and 8 hours later it's still going on. I like that idea very much. It also came from some of the music that I was interested in at the time. The early Phil Glass pieces and Lamont Young, whose idea was that music was something that was there. I like that very much. That kind of way of structuring time. So, part of it is not just an interest in content, image by the way of filling a space and taking up time. Nauman, like Warhol before him, brings bad news for American dreamers. Filling a space and taking up time, starting where things generally end, in definition, is purely putting Descartes before the horse. Art jokes are bad. Because they come retold by the likes of Freud or bloody Duchamp, all old Europeans. They never dreamt the American dream. Architecture and sculpture are within America's domain post-war. Looking west, there's a lot of new space to fill, but with what and for whom? Sculpture was released from its pedestal into the wide world of buildings, street signs, walk, don't walk, the general public. Painting still requires connoisseurs because it needs a roof over its head and the concomitant value associated with the bourgeois collector. Alone in an old shop front in San Francisco, now adjunct to painting and self-consciously follow his every move. First post-war artist, first existential artist, alone in esteem. Everything connects, and everything alienates. Nothing connects, and nothing alienates. All that we see is both particle and wave. Subtle as seals in water, but the land is a different matter. Matter meets gravity, which is insistent and difficult, like a page full of German nouns. I can't go on. I will go on. Present the work, no more, no less. Film is famously the technology of representation, but these are not representations, they are records, moments, pathway corridors, digital information, sound. Pathway corridors. Most closely associated with philosophical insight into the mutual and paradoxical constitution of time and self. The self in time, past, present, and future, in memory, attention, and expectation. Video is sheer information, pure enumeration. Even its snowy nowhere is called static. Sometimes duration is nothing more than the wind through the trees. The tree, in structure and detail, does not change, though constantly moving. It does not tell us anything essential about the tree. It breathes. In cheap cartoons, sometimes the character's only animation are the blinking eyes. See, it lives. Plaster casts are made to objectify and interrogate their host body. The kernel removed, they insinuate that we are hollow, of unshapely pipes and cavernous depressions, with unlikely peaks and troughs. Then, something man-made, a chair, is dared into existence. Let's see how it relates to everything else. Where to start? Everything cracks and shakes. The air trembles with similes. No one works better than another. The earth moans with metaphors. In some language, the question mark comes at the beginning of the sentence, which seems sensible, because we are prepared for the right inflection. It is as if a primer in grammar thoroughly interrogated the efficacy of language, testing it to its breaking point. Ethical or philosophical questions raised are a byproduct. We may think we know them by name, but let's see what they actually do. Figures that move the letters or syllables of words in their typical places. Figures that omit something, for example, a word, words, phrases, or clause from a sentence. Figures that repeat one or more words. Figures that repeat a phrase, a clause, or an idea. Figures that alter the ordinary order of words or sentences. A miscellaneous group of figures that deal with emotional appeals and techniques of arguing. An audio, video, underground chamber, with the figure in the ground, figuratively speaking, camera and microphone become our box of consciousness. The underground chamber is the space inside our heads. It represents complete decapitation of mind from body. During my 2 decades of residence in Arabia, as a royal advisor, I witnessed my share of judicial decapitations. A friend who was a surgeon told me that under medical conditions one can remain conscious for 2 or 3 minutes after the blood supply to the head has been cut off. This indicates that unless rendered unconscious by hitting the ground, a person's severed head remains sentient after the sentence has been executed. A police officer who presided at executions subsequently confirmed this. He told me that if the head is picked up too soon, it endeavours to use its only remaining defence mechanism, biting. The Queen had only one way of settling all difficulties, great or small, or with his head. She said, all things horses and all the things men couldn't put unto to their own head. Having sacrificed it to power, the slave and the conscript went then to industrialization, the blue-collar worker. The subject is now separated from the body. Good boy, bad boy, good dog, bad dog, good dog, good God, bad God. Consider the duration of the works. When you wait for so long at a stop sign, you think it is stuck. Then it changes, and you forgot your frustration long enough that eventually there's only the horn of a guy behind you interrupts your reverie. What's your hurry? Consider the attention that is given to the work. Time, the 4th dimension, is implicit in the sculptures, where the viewer is manipulated through corridors, around hoops, inside pages before disappearing off screen. Each now and again, I mistrust audience participation. That's why I try to make these words as living as possible. Objects in a museum wait in the dark all night. They don't need to be switched on. Video is always on somewhere. You don't need a projectionist or any special premises, let alone a gallery. The tape recorder set inside a concrete block. The buried chamber and its watcher. My mind is the key that sets me free. Whatever we fear, Houdini knew about it. In Bergson's idea of duration, there is one reality at least, which we all seize from within, by intuition and not by simple analysis. It is our personality, and it's flowing through time. Our self, which endures, which reforms De Selby's disembodied travel plans, a trip from Bath to Folkestone by means of an exhaustive series of successive photographic images. The philosophy of the absurd, the footnotes of a thinker who never existed in a book about eternity narrated by a dead man. I'm talking the third policeman here, not the Old Testament. But it would be absolutely impossible to represent duration conceptually, because we would be talking about the memory of duration, not the actual experience of duration. Intellect is the mold in which the richness, joy, and creativity of life is jellied into an inert, motionless, and static dead matter. Negative space, for me, is thinking about the underside and the backside of things. In casting, I always like the parted lines and the seams, things that help to locate the structure of an object, but in the finished sculpture usually get removed. These things help to determine the scale of the work and the weight of the material. Both what's inside and what's outside determine our physical, physiological, and psychological responses, how we look at an object. When looking at a static object, the phenomenon of time, of how we perceive something, can be separated from the what we are looking at, which does not change. Negative space as against what? Positive space. The obverse of free will, the artist is faced with existential crisis. To make or not to make, that is the question. Which bit of the world's negative space am I about to fill? Why not the underneath the chair? Hotel chair, an old chair in the room you landed in, when sat on what is the least considered region in the entire universe? Perfect. Abstract thoughts being lobbed back and forth in a setting that is metaphorical as it is mundanely commonplace, abstract and concrete, elusive, reductive, particular and exemplary. It sets banality and originality on equal terms because one cannot exist without the other. Insomnia is a walking nightmare. Now one doesn't blink. It's a long, hard stare. It affords no distance between desire, need, remedy, ill, conscious, unconscious. It is the whole animal. Nothing transcends the limits of language. The only casts are just so. Casts. They fill the space, not the chair, or animal, or head. The head casts are too full of their own matter to have any trace of voodoo. It is dead air, like in the video. Darkness is dead light. Neon is the night advertising its dark side. It is a word announcing itself, neither verb nor noun, action or object. Our goal, like the burning bush, is unconsumed by its own desire. Lust is endless. Neon is a sign. The loop, the insomniac loop, like Rustin's painter, rigid in bed, ever open eyeball. The loop is there in all Nowman's work, however ephemeral or concrete. It is as relentless as a jukebox full of country music. The only time I wish you had gone is once a day, every day, all day long, or as abrupt as a punchline. Around the corner piece, let run, let run, let run, let run, let run. Round and round the corridors, a child's view of the dream or nightmare, the locked doors of empty rooms. The child's intuitive grasp of something momentous, something happening at or just beyond the limits of its child mind, behind the locked doors. The little figures in the head, the numbskulls and the beezer were a way of compartmentalizing the conscious mind and the dream work. Running the film backwards is a waste of precious time. The work plays powerfully with play and playfully with playfulness. It finds the interstices, the synapses, the current leaping across the gap. It knows that values, meanings, weight and scale exist in relation to their opposites. Thesis and antithesis, love and death, the skull in the nativity scene. Hangman is a game for children. A race to meaning with the ultimate jeopardy and shame, discovering the post-asphyxiation erection. Executed by the state and exposed to the public. Sit down, my good boy, or sit down to die. An eye for an eye, forever. Violent incident. The logic of comedy is murderous. These are cruel toys, cruel stories we are used to. We fear the end, but at least it is the end. There is space for a story in Tom and Jerry. Imagine the future unfolding in endless repetition. Everything exactly as predicted. Itching and scratching. And one and the other. Forever and ever. It is America staring down its other and finding what itself lacks. Poke in the eye with your own trigger finger. Abroad in the world is no place for a cowboy, a toy with a toy gun. The boy with the mutant toys next door. That is the imagination of Bosch. Make use of old Europe and learn the more creative elements of torture and their names. Rendering. That's me in the corner, losing my religion. The fall is godless and graceless. Gravity comes with an implacable formula. The momentum of falling bodies can be expressed as a number. At a given location on the Earth, and in the absence of air resistance, all objects fall with the same uniform acceleration. This acceleration is called the acceleration due to gravity, and it is referred to commonly as G. G equals 9.8 meters per second. Gravity exerts its pull everywhere. For human beings who walk and crawl and dance, rest and sleep with grace and clumsiness, balance and blunder characterize our meetings with the ground. To deny gravity is to become disembodied, spectral, godlike, directing and starring, meddling with its power like the silent masters, Chaplin and Beckett and Keaton, tramps and clowns, those stock figures that move us out of ourselves, the better to examine our behavior. And the ground threatens to rise up at any moment. Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. This is the moment Buzz Lightyear realizes he is not a superhero. He is just a toy. His existential moment as a hero. He flies, rather falls, is thrown through space. Heidegger says we are thrown into existence. That's not flying. That's falling stuff. Wittgenstein characterizes our compulsion to run against the boundaries of language. This running against the walls of our cage is perfectly, absolutely hopeless. What any discourse on ethics says does not add to our knowledge in any sense, but it is a document of a tendency of the human mind. Metaphors are like clowns running at you with buckets of confetti. A slap to the back of the head is some clown maneuvering a plank. Have some dignity. Oh God, here comes the clown with the bucket again. Double steel cage piece. Just thinking about it is strangely liberating. Why is that? A cage within a cage is a double negative. Two wrongs don't make a right. Just a South American triangle has the abuse of power implicit in the upturned chair and the historical memory of the triangular train of slavery. These are the rules, but the rules are nonsense. It is a protection against our own irrational desires, but at its heart, it is empty. It is the protection against ourselves, but that protection is a useful fiction. Protection against the emptiness at the center. By this double bluff, it reveals us as hollow. Guantanamo Bay. There is nothing to fear. the fear itself. We don't have answers, and we have the hostages to prove it. To walk inside it is to be in no man's land, a space for no one. It is the supreme work of nihilism. What we cannot speak about, we must pass over in silence. Famous last words. Shit and die. Shit and live. What is true? Asked Pontius Pilate.